In this video, guys, I'm going to show you the quickest way to cut and sew your very own off-shoulder bustier. So I'm starting with the back part, and I extended my tape by 5 inches, and I marked my bust point at 8 inches, my nipple point at 10 inches, my under bust point at 14 inches, and my half blouse at 17 inches. Okay, so this is all the lines here. Now the top is my chest line. Okay, so after marking all these points, the next thing I went ahead to do was to connect my markings together. Okay, you can see I took my time to connect my markings together. Okay, so that's my bust point, my nipple point, my under bust point, and my half blouse. Okay, so after doing this, the first thing I went ahead to do for this back part, okay, was to mark my zip allowance. So from the middle, I marked 1 inch for my zip allowance, and I just connected it with a straight line. Mind you, this fabric is on a fold. Okay, so from that zip allowance, I marked my nipple to nipple measurement at 4.5 inches, and at my half blouse there, I marked half an inch on both sides. At the top, I marked half a cm on both sides, okay, which is like 1 mm on both sides. Okay, and I connected all my markings together. You can see like that I have like a slanted, almost a triangle going on here. Okay, so the next thing I went ahead to do was I marked my shoulder point, and at my bust point, I came down by 1 inch. At my bust point, I came down by 1 inch. And that's my new bust point. And at that point, I marked my bust measurement. The distance between those 2 points, I added it back because you guys know we're going to cut it out. Okay. So after doing this, the next thing I went ahead to do was to insert my armhole. Then the distance between those 2 points as well, I added it back to the armhole because you guys know that by the time we cut it out, it will make the armhole short. So we need to add it back so everything will be accurate. So after doing this, I went ahead to mark my circumference of my under bust point divided by 4. I also marked my waist measurement divided by 4. And the distance between those 2 points, I added it back, okay, so that everything will be accurate. Then I connected all my markings together. So after connecting all my markings together, I went ahead to add 2.5 inches sewing allowance, okay. So after adding 2.5 inches sewing allowance, the next thing I went ahead to do was to connect everything together. Yes, that is my baby. He's the real commander of this studio. Then the next thing I went ahead to do, guys, was to cut it out. Okay, now you want to make sure you tick that top part because by the time you cut it, the up will be looking like the bottom, especially for the center back. Okay, so I just went ahead to cut it. And this is what we have here for the back part. Now, this is how simple and easy it is to cut the back. Now it's time for the front part. So for the front part, just like we did for the back, I extended my tape by 5 inches, and I marked my bust point at 8 inches, my nipple point at 10 inches, my under bust point at 14 inches, and my half blouse at 17 inches. So after doing all this, I just went ahead to tag all these points. At my half blouse, I marked 4.5 inches, and I connected it with a straight line. Then at my chest line, I marked 5.5 inches, and I connected all my markings together. Now at my half blouse, I marked 1 inch on both sides. I also marked 1 inch on both sides for my under bust point. Okay, so my half blouse and my under bust point, I marked 1 inch on both sides. Then I connected my half blouse to my under bust point. Then I connected my under bust point to my nipple point. Okay, so after doing this, at my chest line, I marked half an inch on both sides. Okay, for my chest line, half an inch on both sides, and I connected everything together. Okay, so after doing this, the next thing I went ahead to do was to mark my shoulder point at 8.5 inches. Okay, then I came down by 1 inch from my bust point. Bear my truth, guys. I came down by 1 inch at my bust point. Then I went ahead to mark my bust measurement. Okay, so after marking my bust measurement, I took the distance between those 2 points and I added it back to my bust measurement. So after adding it back to my bust measurement, I went ahead to re-verify. I did same thing for the shoulder. Then I connected my shoulder to my bust point. Okay, and you guys see that we have like a half shoulder going on here. Yes, Neighbor took light and brought it back. Now, the next thing I went ahead to do was I marked my under bust point and my waist. And of course, the distance between those dots points, I went ahead to add it back to my measurement, to my markings, so that everything will be accurate. Then I connected all my markings together and I added 2.5 inches sewing allowance. Okay. So after adding 2.5 inches sewing allowance, you guys, I went ahead to re-verify my measurement because I don't want to cry premium tears. Now, something I did here is for at my under bust point and my nipple point, I added half an inch to both because we are marking directly on the fabric. So my nipple point is 9.5 inches. I mark 10. My under bust point is 13.5 inches. I mark 14 because we are cutting directly on the fabric. So have that in mind. Now, at the center front, I came down by 1.5 inch to give it a little bit sweetheart. I just connected everything together and I cut it out. So we have a little bit of sweetheart going on there. So this is what we have for the front part. Now it is time to sew. So for the back part, I went ahead to put forcible interface and I just sealed the lace to the back part, okay? And I joined the pieces of the back part together, okay? Then I did same thing for the lining as well. I did same thing for the main piece and the lining. So this is what the back part looks like. Remember I told you guys I top stitch. I use hemming gum to seal the lace to the main piece. That's the main fabric that we cut. And I joined everything together, both for the main piece and for the lining. And this is what we have here. So after joining the two pieces of the back part together, I went ahead. I'm going to join the top together, the top part together. So after doing this, I did this for the first piece and also for the second piece of the back. Then I flipped it open and I top stitch. So after sewing and top stitching, this is what we have here. For the armhole, the zip allowance and the hem, I used my hemming gum to seal everything down because it's not me and you people that will be top stitching all those things together. So after doing this for both pieces, the next thing I went ahead to do was I marked out my zip measurement, okay, my zip allowance. I marked out my zip allowance and I joined it at the zip allowance with loose stitches, okay. So after joining it at the zip allowance with loose stitches, this is what we have here for the back part. Very simple, very straightforward. Now it is time for the front part of this dress, okay. So for the front part, these are the pieces for the front part. I did not add lace because I wanted to do a little bit of design in this front part, okay. So these are the pieces for the front part. This is also the lining piece, okay. I've put my forcible interface. Then the next thing I went ahead to do was to carry the side front, okay. And I'm going to attach it to the center front. You want to make sure you mark your under bust point so that everything will align, okay. So I went ahead to sew my side front pieces to my center front pieces, okay. So after joining, the next thing I went ahead to do was to slit the seam open, okay. So after slitting the seam open, this is what we have here. Then I went ahead to do same thing I did to the main piece. I did same thing to the lining, okay. You guys, my throat is just disturbing me. Mind, just forgive me if I'm coughing, okay. Yeah, so I did same thing I did to the main piece for the front part. I did same thing to the lining. I went ahead to cut it. And so this is what we have here for the lining piece. You also want to make sure you give it a good press. Now the next thing, I don't have strength to pad this bustier, so I'm just going to insert my bra cup. I have a detailed tutorial here on this channel on how to perfectly insert your bra cup, okay. So the next thing I went ahead to do, guys, was to insert my bra cup. Of course, you know you have to insert two. Don't go and insert one and come and be asking me questions. Now, to give this lining a little bit of stability and let them not be gaping in the middle, I went ahead to attach my boning. You see the way I attach this boning? That is how you are going to attach your own boning, okay? There are still other styles, but I just wanted to freestyle this one. So this is my main piece, okay? This is my main piece and this is my lining piece. What I want to do now is to join it at the chest line, okay? So I used my pin, secured everything together, and I just went ahead to attach the lining to the main piece, okay? So after attaching the lining to the main piece, the next thing I went ahead to do was, okay, I flipped it open. Now, before you flip it open, the center, you want to make sure you give it a little bit of cut, okay? I think I did that off camera. Can't remember, but I did it, yeah. So I flipped it open and I top stitched on the lining. After top stitching on the lining and giving it a good press, this is what we have here. Now, for the armhole, for the side, and for the hem, you have to top stitch because this is bustier. This is not the back part, okay? So now, after doing that for the front part, for the back part, I went ahead to mark my bust measurement, my under bust measurement, and my waist measurement, which is what I'm connecting all my markings together. So after connecting all my markings together, the next thing I went ahead to do was to place the back part on the front part. I made sure that the middle of the back part and the middle of the front part were secured firmly together with my office paint. Then I went ahead to join the side of this bustier together. So after joining the side of this bustier, I went ahead to attach the skirt part. That one was not a tutorial. It's just a normal basic skirt. You attach it to the bustier. Okay, so the next thing now I went ahead to do was to attach my zip. I mean, insert my zip. Whatever English you guys like to hear, I've spoken the both of them. You want to attach, you want to install, you want to inhibit anyone. I've attached my zip to this bustier gown. Now for the sleeve is just a very simple off-shoulder sleeve. Let me just show you how to cut it, okay? So you're just going to draw a straight line, okay? So this is my normal straight line. And depending on what your shoulder measurement is, I've shown how to calculate to mark an off-shoulder sleeve, okay? So I marked 3.5 inches at the top. Then for the sleeve length, I also marked 3.5 inches for my sleeve length, okay? Then I connected everything together. That's a straight line. And at the bottom, because the width of the bottom of this off-shoulder sleeve is meant to be 1.5, is meant to be like the distance between the top and the bottom is, the difference between the top and the bottom is meant to be like 1.5 inch or 2 inches. So at the bottom, I marked 4.5 inches. But then I later went ahead to mark 5 inches, okay? Yeah, so the distance should be from 1.5 inch to 2.5 inch. That's the distance between the top and the bottom. Now for this off-shoulder sleeve, I have a detailed tutorial on how to calculate and cut your perfect off-shoulder sleeve. I'll leave the link to that tutorial in the comment section, okay? Now, like I told you guys, I went ahead to readjust it. So this is just how you cut your very own off-shoulder sleeve. You want to make sure that it is slanted. That is the goal to getting a perfect off-shoulder sleeve. So this is how I basically cut the off-shoulder sleeve. Now this is the off-shoulder sleeve. Very simple, very straightforward. There's no plenty. Okay, so after cutting the off-shoulder sleeve and turning it over with the lining and giving it a good press, the next thing I went ahead to do was to attach my off-shoulder sleeve to my bustier. And yes, that's my baby in the background because I'm a mom and my baby is the commander of the studio. Thank you very much. Okay, so I used my office pin to secure my sleeve to the bustier. Then I went ahead to attach the sleeve to the bustier. So after attaching the sleeve to the bustier, I want to do this for both sides. I just grabbed a strip of fabric that's about 2 inches in width, okay, and I used it to turn over see that seam, the armhole. I use it to turn over the armhole because, of course, you can't leave your armhole naked like that. You don't want to leave it naked, so you have to cover it up. So after giving it a good cover, this is what we have here. You can see it's neat, it is put together, it is fabulous, okay? So I also went ahead to attach some beads, silver beads. I went ahead to attach some silver beads to my neckline and to my waistline. And guys, this is what the off-shoulder sleeve looks like. Although I have a final look for this gown, but I realized that the design was covering the off-shoulder, so I had to loosen it so you guys will see it very, very, very well. So this is what my off-shoulder bustier looks like. Now you're going to see me when I wore this gown in the party. This was me in the party. I used my tool to drape over the off-shoulder because I didn't just want to leave it basic. And I had a good time in this party, guys. I danced. It was a family friend's wedding and I danced for over 3 hours. And the next morning, my leg showed me shaggy. This was us when we were done dancing. We danced till everybody in the hall left, and we were still dancing. Like we were the one who closed the party. They've carried all the chairs. Bye.